we get started tonight by talking about baseball. And in all phases, whether it's high school, college, pro, minor league, major league, and to do so, it's a pleasure to have a good and great friend for many years, somebody that I've always truly liked and admired, was good friends with his older brother, and just always enjoyed his career at Archbishop Rummel at Southeastern Louisiana, and then in professional baseball, where he was fortunate to get in part of 5 years on the major league level, which is a tremendous accomplishment and something that's very, very difficult to do, and really enjoyed seeing him. But, I mean, this is a guy that was in professional baseball for 14 years, and he pitched in every locale, some of which were obscure, some of which were pretty well known throughout the country. And therefore, he's eminently qualified.
And out of the country.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Minor league baseball, sure, in Ottawa and so forth. But it's great to have our good and great friend Kirk Bullinger with us here tonight. Kirk, first and foremost, appreciate the time. I hope you're well in these strange times. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk baseball, and I hope you guys are doing well as well.
Kirk,
we are. Kirk,
glad to hear your voice. By the way, the Zephyr bobblehead's going for almost $100 right now on eBay. I wish I had mine.
I think it's spiked up since the 30 for 30 with Mark McGwire the other night.
You think? I was getting, well, you stole my thunder, but go ahead, buddy.
Oh, my phone was blowing up. I never got so many text messages at 10 o'clock at night in my life.
Well, since you brought it up, I was going to save it, but we'll start with that.
Here we go.
So you gave up what, number 68? Is that right? Is that what I recall? Say it again. We lose Kirk there?
I lost him here.
No, I'm here.
Rudy?
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Kirk.
He didn't want to answer the question.
All right, let him answer now. You gave up what, number 68? Is that right, Kirk?
Yes, I gave up 68, the second to last day of the season that year.
Well, you know what's really funny is I was sitting in St. Louis downtown at the Hilton on about the 34th floor because the Saints were playing in St. Louis when McGwire broke the record at Busch Stadium when he hit 62, and I was watching out of the window of the hotel room, and when it happened, it had the TV on in the background too at the same time, and that was amazing to watch.
So you could see it. You could see it from the hotel room.
Yeah, I could see it from the hotel room. I could see the reaction. Awesome. I saw it. I was watching a television, but I was watching through the window, so that was pretty cool. All right, so first and foremost, what pitch was it that he hit the 68th? What did you throw him?
Well, I'd like to call it a sinker, but the results really turned it into a stinker. It was supposed to be a sinker in, and I pulled it a little bit and left it out over the plate, and the rest is history, I guess you could say.
What's really interesting about watching the 30 for 30, and I'm very fair-minded and objective about all this. Michael and I have had this discussion.
Right.
The Andro was legal at the time. That wasn't
Correct.
an issue at all, and it shouldn't have been an issue. The second part, McGwire of that entire bunch is the one guy I actually have respect for and admire because he told the truth, and he told the truth about everything. But the other thing he said was, no matter what you're putting in your body, you all have any idea how hard it is to square up a baseball? In your mind, how tainted are those numbers? Or is there validity to what he said about it's just hard to square up a baseball and it's an amazing feat?
It is extremely difficult to square up a baseball. But the steroids enhance the entire being. It's not just the muscles. It sharpens the eyes. The eye-hand coordination becomes better. It also allowed them to stay at peak performance the entire season, which, as you and I know, is probably the thing that baseball players talk about the most. It's such a long season. It's so hard to get up for the game every day. 162 games in 180 days. Think about that for a minute. Think about how hard it is to go out there every day and to be on point.
Right.
the steroids allowed them to do that. So when, guys like, let's say, a Mike Schmidt, for instance, or a George Foster, who hit 52 home runs one year, they were having some ebbs and flows over the course of that 180 days, 162 game season. Well, McGuire and Sosa, they were going out every day. The bat speed was there. They felt good every day. They had the energy. They were at the top of their game every single day. And I think to me, that's the most important thing that the steroids allowed those guys to do. Yeah, it increased bat speed, obviously, and it allowed them to hit a ball here and there and get it out of the ballpark. But to me, when you can go out there each and every day and have your best stuff on the field, I think that's the difference maker right there.
Right.
'Cause we know that those guys were great players. Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, they were probably going to be Hall of Famers anyway. They just improved themselves to the point where they could do things that were, far beyond what we ever thought we would see.
Wow.
Michael?
You walk into the locker room for the first time. You've been a kid, and boy, what a blessed career that you can have. How often does a young man get to go to college near his home, get to play AAA in his home? But you walk into those locker rooms after you've received those phone calls. Who's one or two of the names that you walk in and you were a kid again, and you looked, hey, that's so and so over there. I always love to hear that you went, oh my goodness, there he is.
Yeah, I think the first time, that really struck me was in the Houston Astros locker room. Because when I was with the Expos, we were all pretty young. It was a young group of guys. I played with some Hall of Famers on that team, Vladimir Guerrero being one. But I had gone through the minor leagues with him, so I wasn't awestruck by him. I was awestruck by his ability and his talent because he was a freak. He was an absolute freak. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about some of the stuff that guy could do was amazing. And he was probably the best baseball talent that I ever played with. But when I walked into the Astros locker room and you see Roger Clemens' locker, that was pretty special because you couldn't really even see his locker. You knew it was his locker because there were about 150 boxes of gear, like a wall. And he was right next to Pettit. He was pretty good, too. So between the two of them, it really blocked off about 25% of the locker room with all the gear that they got from Louisville Slugger, because I believe they were both Louisville Slugger guys with their gloves. I want to say Rocket was an Adidas shoe guy, and they just had gear all over the place. The great part about it was a lot of that was for us. They shared it with everybody, and those guys were just great teammates. And I think that's when I was a little bit more awestruck.
I'm playing baseball,
by the players in my own locker room.
Visiting with Kirk Bullinger, former major leaguer, of course, New Orleanian, 260-1061 to join us. And, of course, those Astros teams were awfully good. And I was blessed, as you know, to be the original play-by-play voice of the Zephyrs. And watching, we had the Astros affiliation. And, of course, you were part of that, too. And those guys that came through here that you played with there, that was a heck of a farm system. They produced the Roy Oswalds and the Wade Millers and the Lance Berkmans and the Richard Hidalgos and Darrell Wards. And I could go on and on. Morgan Ensberg, Adam Everett, and so forth. Astros were really good, but the farm system was really good, and the affiliation with New Orleans was superlative. Minor league baseball.
Perfect.
We're involved in an effort right now to try to get minor league baseball back here. You saw that it could work here. What's it going to take to make it work again in your mind? Because we obviously would love to see it back.
Well, I guess the first thing is going to be to renovate the stadium, huh? I think that was kind of the sticking point recently. So I guess we have to get that up to par. I know this is a very good baseball town, and that was evident from the crowds that we did draw when I was with the Zephyrs and we were affiliated with the Astros. I do believe this, though. The reason that worked so well was that it allowed our fan base. It allowed our fan base to fall in love with players here. Okay, it was hard not to like guys like Adam Everett and Morgan Ensberg and Ward, and those guys were such likable players that our fan base fell in love with those guys. And we know how New Orleans is. It's not a handshake town; it's a hug town, right? You see somebody you give them a hug. And the players with the Astros, they received that same welcome from the fans. But it allowed the fact that we were only 5 hours away from the major league, from the parent club, that when the fans did develop that relationship with the players, it was very easy for them on a weekend, say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to go to the Astro games and we're going to go see Adam, or we're going to go see Jason Lane, and I think that was very important. So if we do get baseball back again, and I hope that we do, I hope we can get with a parent club that is somewhat close to us so that the fans can follow and continue to follow, and then also at least be able to get some sort of a TV contract with that parent club so that they can also follow them on television when they move up to the major leagues. I think that was the key with the Astros. I think that's why it worked so well, because you said it was perfect, and it absolutely was.
Obviously, they never developed any synergy with the Brewers or with the Marlins in that situation. And there's always been an Astros tug. I mean, when we were kids, I mean, that was the radio station that came in late at night for us to hear. And so I fully agree with that. I think that was magic when all those things did come together.
Right, and if you remember, those Astro games were still being carried on the airwaves here in New Orleans for a while.
I laid in the bed listening to Gene Elston at night on my earphones.
Radio and television, by the way, at that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We had the games on television on the local cable carrier from Cox, and then we did have the radio games. I mean, I was listening. I was in New Orleans, and our game might be over, and the Astros were on the West Coast, and I'm listening to Milo and Ashby call the game, and those guys were fabulous, by the way. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better crew, We had Deshays as well. I mean, it was just a perfect
Bill
setup.
Brown. Yep.
Yeah, Bill Brown was great. All those guys, they were a lot of fun. And they were just like family. When I got called up, I got to know them pretty good. Bill Brown put me on the spot one time, and he really scared me because Milo's an icon. I mean, Hall of Famer, and I was doing a little spot when I first got called up, because that's what they do when you get called up. They want to get your face out there so the fans get to know you a little bit. In some kind of way, Bill Brown found out I could do a pretty good impersonation of Milo on a commercial from way back when he was with the Chicago Cubs about True-Link fences, and he made me do it on air. I didn't want to do it, and he kept pushing me, and finally I did it, and I really thought Milo might take offense to it, but it all worked out. It all worked out pretty well. Milo pretended to give me a hard time, and then he kind of let me off the hook. But you didn't want to mess with Milo. He was like everybody's grandpa in that organization. Everybody loved him.
Sure. And then, of course, as a player, and having been part of the players' union, you've been watching with great interest, I'm sure, the back and forth that's been going on with baseball and the majors. It's left everybody with a bad taste in their mouth. Everybody in the public feels like we're suffering. These guys can't agree to anything, and they make all this money, and then they're contracting minor league teams. They're firing minor league players. They won't go play baseball. Back and forth. What do you make of all this, and is there anyone at fault here?
I think everybody's at fault. First off, it's very disheartening. Nobody, there's probably never been a major league player that was as big of a Major League Baseball fan as me. I'll tell you that right now. some guys play it, some guys love it. I did both, and I live it every day, and it hurts. It hurts me to my heart to see what's going on right now, and I just pray that they figure it out some kind of way, because right now this country needs sports. We need that. More than anything else, I think right now sports is something that can bring this country together, and we don't have it right now. And I think that's one of the biggest problems going on right now. Not to mention the obvious, but we do need sports, and I think sports has always been able to help our country get through tough times. And I think we need it again, and these guys have to figure that out.
I agree.
I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm not saying the players are right. I'm not saying that the players are 100% wrong. But I know there's a way to work it out, and it's gonna take a little give and a little take by both sides, and hopefully figure it out sooner rather than later, because before you know it, the summer's going to be gone, and we're not going to have any baseball.
You see something like this, and it's got to be like the quintessential negotiation. Somebody says if only one side's happy, it's not good, and both sides need to be losing a little something. And there has to be a lifting up of the thought of what they create, like you said, in the psyche of a nation and a community. I mean, New Orleans people understand that probably more than anybody. We talked about it a few weeks ago on this program. When that kick was blocked by Steve Gleason that night, it was like we were finally home after that storm situation. So we understand that, but somebody's got to step up on both sides and say, let's do this for the people. And that's now when that happens in a player association, is there just one guy per team that's representing you, and then they contact all of them, or how does this go back and forth?
Yeah, every team's got a rep, but I've never been in any type of a situation while I was in the big leagues where we were, having to deal with something like this. I wasn't around for really any strikes while I was in the big leagues. The one that was closest was when I was in A-ball, and I was asked to cross the line, and of course I didn't, for various reasons. But yeah, I don't know what it's going to take. I think it's going to take a guy like Mike Trout to, he's somewhat the face of the league. It's going to take somebody like that to step up and gather the troops and circle the troops and tell them, look, we have to do this for not only for ourselves, but for the betterment of the game, number one, because you don't want to scar the game for something like this, and for the betterment of the fans. And I think if somebody like that takes the bull by the horn, so to speak, maybe they can get something done. But that's going to take a lot of courage for that one person to do that, No
doubt. Kirk Bullinger, really appreciate the time tonight. Appreciate you, my friend, and nothing but the best moving forward. And hopefully we can be involved in some projects here in the near future that'll make everybody happy. You hear?
Absolutely. We'd love to be able to help in any way I can. And guys, I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to talk baseball, even though right now there's not a whole lot of baseball to talk about. But like we said, hopefully it's on the horizon.
I'm headed to eBay, guys.
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of watching Korean pitchers throw 88 miles an hour, but that's me. So having said that, it's still baseball.
Going to eBay. I'm going to eBay, guys.
I hear you. Come out to Rumble. They're playing doubleheaders every day practically.
There you go. I can do that.
That's
Thank you,
all
my friend.
the baseball I'm getting right now.
But
I'm enjoying
I'll do that. All right, buddy.
All right.
Thank you, Kurt. God bless.
All right,
man.
guys. Take
care. You got it. It's Kirk Bullinger.